Get out of the car! Hands where I can see them! Now! Officer Derek Thompson's voice booms across the intersection, his service weapon drawn and pointed at the driver's window of the red Ferrari 8112 Superfast. Do not reach for anything! Open the door from the outside! Slowly! 24-year-old Marcus Johnson sits in the driver's seat of his Ferrari, hands raised high and visible, staring at the officer through his window with a mixture of exhaustion and resignation. Around them, traffic has stopped. A busy suburban intersection on a Tuesday afternoon. People are pulling out phones, recording. This is about to be another viral video. Officer, my hands are visible. Marcus keeps his voice calm despite the gun pointed at his face. I'm going to reach for the door handle with my left hand. I'm moving slowly. I'm complying with your commands. I said don't move! Derek's face is red with adrenaline and fury. That car is stolen! You're under arrest! Open the door and get on the ground! Marcus takes a slow breath. This is the 37th time he's been stopped by police. He knows exactly how this goes. Stay calm. Comply. Survive. Document everything. Officer, this car isn't stolen. It's registered to me. I can show you my registration and license. You're not showing me anything. You're going to get out of that stolen vehicle and get on the ground before I drag you out. 2 more police cars arrive with sirens. 4 more officers jump out with weapons drawn. A $400,000 Ferrari with a young black driver has triggered every alarm in these suburban cops' minds. Must be stolen. Must be a dangerous criminal. Can't possibly be legitimate. Marcus knows what's about to happen. He's lived this scenario dozens of times before, just never with this much money at stake, never with this much power to fight back. Officer Thompson, Marcus says clearly, projecting his voice so the multiple phone cameras recording this can hear. I am Marcus Johnson. This Ferrari 8112 Superfast is registered in my name. I purchased it legally with my own money. I am not a threat to you or anyone else. I am going to comply with your commands. I am opening my door slowly with my left hand now. He opens the door, steps out slowly, hands still raised high, wearing an expensive suit, Tom Ford, $4,000, tailored perfectly, Rolex on his wrist, Daytona, $35,000, diamond cufflinks, looking like he belongs in this Ferrari, looking like money. But Derek sees only one thing. A young black man who couldn't possibly afford this car, must have stolen it, must be a criminal. On the ground, face down, hands behind your back. Marcus lowers himself to the pavement, face down, hands behind his back, the expensive suit pressing against the dirty street, diamond cufflinks scraping concrete, but he stays calm, complies, survives. Derek's knee drives into Marcus's back, handcuffs snap on tight, too tight, deliberately painful. Other officers surround him, weapons still drawn. Where'd you steal this car? Derek's voice is in Marcus's ear, aggressive and certain. Who you working for? Who's your crew? I didn't steal this car, Marcus says calmly into the pavement. I own it. Check the registration. Check the plates. It's registered to Marcus Johnson, that's me. Yeah, right. A kid like you owns a $400,000 Ferrari? Try again. Marcus feels the familiar rage building. The rage he's felt since he was 14 years old, getting stopped for looking suspicious while walking home from school. The rage that's fueled every business decision he's made. The rage that made him a millionaire by age 24 specifically so he could have the power to fight back. Officer, I'm a software entrepreneur. I sold my company last year. I bought this car legally. Everything you're doing right now is being recorded by multiple cameras. You've just committed illegal detention, excessive force, and racial profiling. And when this video goes viral in the next hour, your career is over. Derek's knee presses harder into Marcus's back. You threatening me? I'm informing you of the reality you're creating. You pulled me over without reasonable suspicion. You drew your weapon without justification. You're detaining me without probable cause. Every single action violates my constitutional rights. And unlike the other 36 times I've been illegally stopped by police, this time I have the resources to sue your department into bankruptcy. The other officers exchange glances. One of them, older, Sergeant Stripes, steps forward. Thompson, run the plates. Derek hesitates. Sarge, this car is obviously stolen. Run! The plates! Now! Derek gets up from Marcus's back, walks to his patrol car, runs the Ferrari's license plate through the system, and watches his career end in real time. The registration comes back clean. Owner, Marcus Johnson. No warrants, no violations, legally purchased, fully insured. Everything legitimate. Derek stares at the computer screen, feeling ice water pour through his veins. The crowd of phone cameras, the dash cam footage, the body cam recording everything. The young black man in the $4,000 suit still handcuffed face down on the pavement. He just brutalized a legitimate Ferrari owner on video for the crime of driving while black. And the man he arrested isn't just any Ferrari owner. The notes in the system show Marcus Johnson is a prominent tech entrepreneur, philanthropist, has meetings with the mayor, donated $2 million to youth programs last month, is being honored by the governor next week. Derek just arrested one of the city's most successful young businessmen, on camera, in front of dozens of witnesses, based purely on the assumption that a black man couldn't possibly own an expensive car. The sergeant walks over, looks at Derek's screen, closes his eyes. Uncuff him, now. But what neither Derek nor the sergeant knows yet is that the young man they just humiliated has a very specific expertise that makes this stop even more catastrophic for them. Marcus isn't just a tech entrepreneur. His company specialized in building AI systems for police departments, systems designed to analyze officer behavior and identify racial profiling patterns. The software engineer they just arrested knows more about police procedures, constitutional law, and civil rights violations than their entire department's legal team. And he's been recording every second of this illegal stop on his smartwatch, documenting evidence that will be used in the $15 million lawsuit he's about to file. The young man face down on the pavement isn't a victim. He's an expert witness in his own civil rights case. And in the next 6 months, he's going to use this illegal stop to reform an entire city's police department while destroying the career of every officer involved. This is the story of how one illegal traffic stop became a national reckoning with racial profiling, and how the young black man they assumed was a criminal turned out to be the one person in the city with the knowledge, resources, and determination to make this the last time these officers illegally stopped someone based on skin color. Marcus lies on the pavement while Derek fumbles with the handcuff keys. His mind is working through the legal implications even as the metal cuts into his wrists. He knows exactly what just happened, has studied thousands of cases like this, built software to identify this exact pattern of behavior. The Fourth Amendment violation is clear. No reasonable suspicion for the stop. Derek saw an expensive car with a black driver and assumed criminality. That's racial profiling, not legitimate law enforcement. The use of force was excessive, weapons drawn for a traffic stop with no indication of danger, forcing him to the ground, knee in his back, all unnecessary and illegal. The detention is unlawful, no probable cause to believe he'd committed any crime, no evidence of theft beyond Derek's racist assumption, and every second of it is documented. Dash cam from Derek's patrol car, body cameras from all 5 officers. At least 23 cell phone videos from the crowd. Marcus counted them while face down, cataloging his evidence. This isn't the first time Marcus has been illegally stopped by police. Not even close. But it's the first time since he became a millionaire. The first time since he has the resources to fight back properly. The first time he can turn his victimization into systemic change. Derek finally gets the handcuffs off. "Sir, I apologize. There was a misunderstanding." "No." Marcus sits up slowly, brushing dirt off his $4,000 suit. "There was no misunderstanding. You saw a young black man in an expensive car and immediately assumed I was a criminal. You pulled me over without reasonable suspicion. You drew your weapon without justification. You used excessive force without cause. You violated my constitutional rights in at least 7 different ways." He stands up, looks directly at Derek's body camera. Speaks clearly for the recording. "I am Marcus Johnson. I am 24 years old. I am the founder and former CEO of Sentinel Systems, a software company specializing in police accountability technology. I sold my company for $50 million. I purchased this Ferrari legally with my own money. I was driving to a meeting with Mayor Richardson about funding youth programs in underserved communities." He turns to address all the officers. Every officer here just participated in racial profiling and illegal detention. I have recordings from my smartwatch documenting the entire encounter. I have witness statements from 20-plus bystanders who recorded video. I have your own dash cam and body cam footage showing your actions. The sergeant steps forward, trying to de-escalate. Mr. Johnson, I apologize for any inconvenience. Inconvenience? Marcus's voice stays calm, but carries an edge of steel. I was pulled from my car at gunpoint, forced to the ground, handcuffed on pavement, had a knee driven into my back, all because Officer Thompson assumed a young black man couldn't possibly own a Ferrari. That's not an inconvenience. That's a civil rights violation. That's exactly the kind of racial profiling my company's software was designed to identify and prevent. He looks at Derek directly. You pulled me over for DWB. Driving while black, nothing else, no traffic violation, no reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Just a black man in a car you decided was too expensive for him to own legitimately. That's textbook racial profiling. Derek's face is pale now. I saw the car and thought, you thought what? That black people can't afford nice cars? That any young black man in a Ferrari must be a criminal? Marcus's tone is factual, not angry, presenting evidence, not arguing. What was your reasonable suspicion for this stop, Officer Thompson? Derek says nothing, because there wasn't any. They both know it. Let me help you with the answer. Marcus continues. You had no reasonable suspicion. You had a racist assumption, and you acted on it. And now I'm going to use this incident to demonstrate exactly why police departments need better training, better oversight, and better accountability systems. He turns to the sergeant. What's your name? Sergeant Michael Roberts. Sergeant Roberts, you're going to be hearing from my attorneys. We'll be filing a formal complaint. We'll be requesting all video footage through public records requests. We'll be conducting depositions with every officer present, and we'll be suing your department for violation of my constitutional rights. Roberts tries again to de-escalate. Mr. Johnson, I understand you're upset, but perhaps we can resolve this without accountability, without consequences, without addressing the systemic racism that led to this stop? Marcus shakes his head. No. This is exactly what accountability looks like. Your officer racially profiled me, violated my rights, used excessive force. That's not going to be resolved with an apology and a handshake. Marcus pulls out his phone, unlocks it. I'm calling my attorney now. We're documenting everything. And Sergeant Roberts, you should probably call your union rep and your department's legal counsel, because this is about to become very expensive for your city. He makes the call while the officers stand around uncertainly. The crowd of witnesses is still recording. Traffic is backed up in all directions. This illegal stop has become a public spectacle, and Marcus is about to turn it into a national conversation about racial profiling. His attorney answers. Jessica Martinez, civil rights lawyer, former ACLU, now in private practice specializing in police misconduct cases. Marcus has her on retainer, has been preparing for a moment like this since he made his first million. Jessica, it's Marcus. I need you to come to the intersection of Maple and Jefferson immediately. I was just illegally stopped, detained at gunpoint, and handcuffed by suburban police who assumed my Ferrari was stolen. Everything's on video. Multiple cameras. I have recordings. I need you here now before they try to disappear evidence. He can hear Jessica moving immediately. I'm 15 minutes away. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Don't let them take your phone or watch. Document everyone's badge numbers. I'm on my way. Marcus hangs up, looks at the officers. My attorney is en route. Until she arrives, I'm not answering any more questions. I want copies of all dash cam and body cam footage from this stop. I want the names and badge numbers of every officer present. I want the incident report number. And I want confirmation that you're preserving all evidence. Sergeant Roberts nods reluctantly. We'll preserve everything. Mr. Johnson, I really think we can resolve this. The time to resolve this was before Officer Thompson pulled his weapon on an innocent man for driving an expensive car while black. Now we're in federal lawsuit territory. Now we're talking about civil rights violations. Now we're discussing systemic reform. You don't get to de-escalate after violating someone's constitutional rights. Marcus starts photographing the scene, the officers' positions, the Ferrari, the crowd, badge numbers, squad car numbers, everything, building his case in real time. Mr. Johnson, You can't photograph, Derek starts. I absolutely can photograph. I'm documenting a crime scene, the crime being your violation of my constitutional rights. I'm allowed to photograph police in public. I'm allowed to document my own illegal detention. That's established case law. You want to arrest me for exercising my First Amendment rights too? Add that to the lawsuit. Derek backs off. The sergeant shoots him a warning look. This is spiraling out of control, and they all know it. 10 minutes later, Jessica Martinez arrives in her BMW. She's a Latina. Woman in her 40s dressed in a power suit carrying a briefcase that screams expensive legal expertise. She takes one look at the scene. Marcus standing next to his Ferrari, 5 police vehicles, 20-plus witnesses recording, and immediately goes into action. I'm Jessica Martinez, Mr. Johnson's attorney. As of this moment, my client will not be answering any questions. We'll be filing formal complaints with your department, your city, and the State Civil Rights Commission. We'll be requesting all video footage, all police reports, and all related documentation. Any attempt to destroy, alter, or withhold evidence will be considered obstruction and will result in additional legal action. She pulls out her phone, starts recording. For the record, today's date is November 21st, 2025. The time is 2:47 p.m. We are at the intersection of Maple and Jefferson. My client, Marcus Johnson, was illegally stopped while driving his legally owned Ferrari. He was detained at gunpoint without reasonable suspicion. He was forced to the ground and handcuffed without probable cause. 5 officers responded to what was clearly a case of racial profiling. She addresses the sergeant. Sergeant Roberts, correct? Yes. What was the reasonable suspicion for this stop? Roberts hesitates. Officer Thompson believed the vehicle might be stolen. Based on what evidence? Based on the value of the vehicle and the race of the driver? Say it. Officer Thompson saw a young black man in an expensive car and assumed criminality. That's racial profiling. That's a constitutional violation. And that's what we're going to prove in federal court. Jessica turns to Marcus. Are you injured? The handcuffs were deliberately tightened. I have marks on my wrists. The officer's knee and my back may have caused bruising. I'll need to be examined by a doctor and photographed for evidence. We'll do that today. I want everything documented. Jessica looks at the assembled officers. Gentlemen, you just made a very expensive mistake. My client isn't some random citizen you can brutalize and expect to go away quietly. Marcus Johnson is a successful entrepreneur with resources to pursue this case to its conclusion. He's an expert in police accountability technology who knows the law better than most officers. And he's determined to use this incident to create systemic change. She hands business cards to the sergeant. Have your department's attorneys contact me. We'll be filing our lawsuit within the week. In the meantime, preserve all evidence, because we're going to subpoena everything. Every video, every report, every communication about this stop. And we're going to expose the racial profiling that led to this illegal detention. The sergeant accepts the cards silently. Knows he's watching a career-ending incident unfold. Jessica turns to Marcus. Get in your car. Drive to my office. We'll document everything there. Don't engage with these officers further. Let me handle it. Marcus nods. Gets back in his Ferrari. Starts the engine, the V12 roaring to life, drawing more attention. He looks at Officer Derek Thompson one more time through the window. Derek's face is ashen. He knows what's coming. Knows his career just ended. Knows he's about to become a national example of police racial profiling. Marcus drives away slowly, carefully, following every traffic law, not giving them any excuse for another stop. But he's not done with them, not even close. This is just the beginning. In his rearview mirror, he watches the officers standing around looking lost. Sergeant Roberts on his phone, probably calling their union rep and the city's legal department. Derek Thompson sitting in his patrol car, staring at nothing, realizing his life just imploded. The witnesses are still recording, still posting videos to social media. This is already going viral. Within an hour, it'll be national news. And Marcus is going to use every second of this illegal stop to burn down the racist policing system that's brutalized him and millions of others. Because this isn't just about one traffic stop. It's about 37 illegal stops he's experienced since age 14, about being pulled over for driving through a nice neighborhood, about being questioned for looking suspicious, about being assumed to be a criminal because of his skin color. This is about every young black person who's been stopped for DWB, every entrepreneur harassed for success, every professional humiliated for driving a nice car, every person of color whose achievements are met with suspicion instead of respect. Marcus has the resources now to fight back, the knowledge to win, the platform to create change. And he's going to use this moment to make sure Officer Derek Thompson's illegal stop becomes the catalyst for reform. 3 hours later, Marcus sits in Jessica's office conference room. His wrists have been photographed, clear handcuff marks, deliberate tightening visible. His suit has been documented, dirt and damage from being forced to the pavement. His smartwatch footage has been downloaded, crystal clear audio and video of the entire encounter. Jessica reviews the evidence with her litigation team, 4 attorneys, all specializing in civil rights cases. They watch the videos, read through Marcus's detailed notes, analyze the legal violations. This is one of the clearest cases of racial profiling I've seen in 15 years, Jessica says. No reasonable suspicion, no traffic violation, no articulable facts supporting the stop, just a black man in an expensive car. Another attorney, David Chen, former prosecutor who switched sides, adds, "The use of force is also problematic. Weapons drawn immediately, forcing him to the ground. Handcuffs tightened deliberately. All excessive for a traffic stop, even if there had been reasonable suspicion." A third attorney, Sarah Williams, police procedure expert, pulls up case law on her laptop. "We've got clear Fourth Amendment violations. Terry v. Ohio requires reasonable suspicion. Wren v. United States allows pretextual stops only if there's an actual traffic violation. They had neither. This stop was unconstitutional from the first second." Marcus sits listening to them build his case. He knows all this already, studied it while building his company's police accountability software. But hearing it from multiple legal experts confirms what he already knew. This case is a winner. "What are we looking at for damages?" Marcus asks. Jessica pulls out a legal pad. "Civil rights violation under 42 U.S.C. 1983. We can sue the officers individually and the department. We'll claim false imprisonment, excessive force, emotional distress, and violation of constitutional rights. Conservative estimate, 3 to 5 million in compensatory damages. Punitive damages could add another 5 to 10 million depending on the jury and how egregious they find the conduct. And criminal charges? That's up to the DA. We'll file a formal complaint, provide all evidence, push for prosecution under federal civil rights statutes. But honestly, criminal charges against police are difficult. We'll focus on the civil case where we have more control." David adds, "But the civil case can still destroy careers. We'll depose every officer, expose the department's pattern of racial profiling, subpoena their training records, show this wasn't an isolated incident. By the time we're done, Thompson will likely be terminated and the department will face federal oversight." Marcus nods. "I want more than money. I want systemic reform. I want new training protocols. I want accountability measures. I want this to never happen to another person in that city." Jessica smiles. "That's why I love working with you. Most clients just want the payout. You want actual change. Money doesn't mean anything if the system stays broken. I want the settlement to include mandatory reforms, body camera policies, racial bias training, community oversight, data collection on traffic stops, everything my company's software was designed to encourage." Sarah pulls up a document. "We can structure the settlement to require policy changes as part of the agreement. It's not uncommon in civil rights cases. We'll include monitoring to ensure compliance, maybe even require they purchase and implement your accountability software." Marcus likes that idea. Turn his illegal stop into an opportunity to deploy the exact technology that would have prevented it. "There's something else," Marcus says. "I want to go public with this. National media. Tell my story. Put pressure on the department. Make this a conversation about racial profiling everywhere, not just this one city." Jessica considers it. "That's risky. Going public before settlement can complicate negotiations, but it can also increase pressure for reform. And with your platform and resources, you could make real impact. The video's already viral." Marcus pulls out his phone. 43 million views in 3 hours. So Justice for Marcus is trending. People are already talking about it. I might as well control the narrative. He shows them his Twitter. The top video has been viewed over 20 million times. Comments are overwhelmingly supportive. This is exactly what racial profiling looks like. Innocent man brutalized for driving an expensive car while black. The cop's face when he realized the Ferrari wasn't stolen. Career over. Marcus Johnson is a millionaire entrepreneur who donates millions to charity, and he still got treated like a criminal. No amount of success protects you from racism. That cop is done. Video evidence of racial profiling. He's getting sued into bankruptcy. But there are also the predictable racist responses. Maybe if he wasn't driving such an expensive car, he wouldn't attract attention. The cop was just doing his job. How was he supposed to know the car wasn't stolen? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Don't blame the cop for being cautious. Marcus has seen these comments before. The mental gymnastics people perform to justify racism. The inability to admit that a black person can legitimately own expensive things without being suspicious. I want to do a press conference, Marcus decides. Tomorrow, I'll tell my full story. The 37 times I've been stopped, the pattern of racial profiling I've experienced, how I built my company specifically to fight this problem, and how this illegal stop is going to be the catalyst for real reform. Jessica nods slowly. Okay, but we do it right. Prepared statement. Control the message. No improvising. We turn you into the face of police accountability reform. I've been preparing for this moment since I was 14 years old, getting stopped on my way home from school. I know exactly what I want to say. Over the next 6 hours, they prepare. Marcus writes his statement, personal story combined with systemic analysis. They anticipate questions, practice responses, prepare supporting evidence. By midnight, they're ready. Press conference scheduled for 10 a.m. the next morning. Marcus drives home to his penthouse apartment, $3 million, purchased with cash from his company sale, overlooking the city. He sits on his balcony looking at the lights below. 37 illegal stops. 37 times he'd been pulled over, questioned, searched, humiliated for the crime of existing while black. Starting at age 14, he remembers the first time. Walking home from the library. Stopped by police who demanded to know why he was in this neighborhood. It was his own neighborhood. He lived 3 blocks away, but the officers saw a young black teenager with a backpack and assumed criminality. They'd searched him, found nothing but library books, asked where he stole them, didn't believe him when he said he had a library card, made him wait on the sidewalk for 40 minutes while they verified his story by calling the library. He was 14 years old, reading books about computer programming, and police treated him like a criminal. That was the moment Marcus understood the system was broken, that no amount of following rules would protect him, that his skin color would always make him suspicious in certain people's eyes. He'd channeled that rage into motivation, taught himself to code, built his first app at 16, started his company at 19, grew it into a multi-million-dollar business by 23. Sold it for $50 million at 24. Every step of the way he'd been stopped by police, questioned for being in nice neighborhoods, pulled over for broken taillights that weren't broken, searched for matching a description, treated like a criminal despite never committing a crime. And now, finally, he had the resources to fight back. The Ferrari wasn't just a car. It was a statement, a way of proving he'd made it, that he belonged in wealthy spaces, that he could afford nice things legitimately, but even $50 million couldn't protect him from being assumed to be a car thief. That's what tomorrow's press conference is about, showing that no amount of success immunizes black people from racial profiling, that the system needs to change, not just individual attitudes. Marcus goes to bed knowing tomorrow will be difficult, will expose him to criticism and harassment, will make him a target for people who hate seeing successful black people demand accountability. But he's ready, has been preparing for this moment his entire adult life. The next morning, Marcus stands in front of 23 cameras at a press conference in downtown. National media, local news, independent journalists. Everyone wants the story. He's wearing another expensive suit, Brioni this time, $6,000. Rolex still on his wrist, looking exactly like someone who belongs in a Ferrari, making it impossible for anyone to claim he looked suspicious. Jessica stands beside him. His statement is prepared. Time to tell his story. Good morning. My name is Marcus Johnson. I'm 24 years old. I'm a software entrepreneur and philanthropist. Yesterday afternoon, I was illegally stopped, detained at gunpoint, and brutalized by suburban police while driving to a meeting with the mayor. I was forced to the ground, handcuffed, and accused of stealing my own car, all because a police officer saw a young black man in an expensive vehicle and assumed I was a criminal. He pauses. Lets that sink in. This wasn't the first time I've been illegally stopped by police. It was the 37th time. Since age 14, I have been stopped, questioned, searched, and humiliated by law enforcement 37 times. Not for breaking laws, for existing while black. Marcus pulls out a document. I've documented every stop, dates, locations, officers' names when possible, stated reasons for the stop. Here's what the 37 stops have in common. I was never committing a crime. I was never charged with anything. I was always released after officers realized they had no legal basis to detain me. Every single stop was based on racial profiling. He looks directly at the cameras. I'm sharing my story because I want people to understand something. I did everything right. I followed every rule. I got an education, graduated top of my class. I built a successful business, generated millions in revenue, employed dozens of people. I gave back to my community, donated over $3 million to youth programs. I paid my taxes. I drove expensive cars I purchased legally with money I earned through hard work. And none of it protected me from being treated like a criminal yesterday. His voice carries emotion now, controlled, but real. If a young black millionaire entrepreneur who's done everything society asks can still be pulled from his car at gunpoint and thrown to the ground, what hope does a regular black person have? If success and wealth can't protect you from racial profiling, what can? Marcus holds up his wrist, showing the smartwatch. I recorded yesterday's stop. Every second. Officer Thompson pulled me over without reasonable suspicion, drew his weapon without justification, used excessive force without cause, violated my Fourth Amendment rights in at least 7 different ways, all because he saw my skin color and my car and assumed I was a thief. This is what racial profiling looks like. This is what systemic racism looks like. Not cross-burnings and slurs, though those still happen, but assumptions, stereotypes. The automatic belief that a young black man couldn't possibly own a Ferrari legitimately. That's the racism that permeates policing in America. He pulls out another document. I built my company, Sentinel Systems, specifically to address this problem. We created AI software that analyzes police stops and identifies patterns of racial profiling. Our software could have flagged Officer Thompson months ago, could have shown that he disproportionately stops black drivers, could have triggered intervention before he violated my rights. But the suburban police department where this happened doesn't use accountability software, doesn't collect data on stops by race, doesn't track which officers generate complaints, doesn't have systems to identify and correct racial profiling. And that's why what happened to me yesterday keeps happening to millions of black people every day. Marcus's voice strengthens. I'm filing a federal lawsuit against Officer Thompson and the suburban police department for violation of my civil rights. I'm seeking $15 million in damages. But more importantly, I'm demanding systemic reform. I want mandatory body cameras. I want data collection on all stops. I want racial bias training. I want community oversight. I want accountability. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. When I win this lawsuit, and I will win because the evidence is overwhelming, I'm donating the entire settlement to police reform initiatives. Every dollar will go toward implementing accountability systems, training programs, and community oversight boards in cities across America. He looks at the cameras. I don't need the money. I'm already wealthy. But I need justice. And I need change. So this lawsuit isn't about enriching myself. It's about using my resources and platform to fix a broken system. Marcus pulls out his phone, shows a video. This is footage from my smartwatch yesterday. Watch Officer Thompson's face when he realizes the Ferrari is registered to me. Watch him understand that he just brutalized an innocent man on camera. Watch his career end in real time. He plays 30 seconds of footage. Derek's face going pale, the sergeant's reaction, the moment they realized they'd made a catastrophic mistake. That's what accountability looks like. That's an officer facing consequences for racial profiling. And that's what needs to happen every time police violate someone's rights. Marcus puts his phone away. I want to be clear about something. I'm not anti-police. I respect law enforcement when it's done constitutionally and without bias. My company's software was designed to help good cops by identifying bad ones. Most officers are professionals trying to do difficult jobs, but the system protects bad cops, shields them from accountability, allows racial profiling to continue unchecked. That has to change. And I'm going to use this illegal stop as leverage to force that change, not just in one department, nationally. I'm going to make Officer Thompson's mistake so expensive, so public, and so consequential that police departments across the country implement reforms to avoid the same fate. He takes a breath. Yesterday was humiliating, terrifying, degrading, but I'm turning my victimization into activism, my illegal stop into advocacy, my trauma into transformation, because I have resources that most victims of police misconduct don't have. And I'm going to use those resources to fight for everyone who's been profiled, brutalized, and dismissed. Marcus looks at the cameras one more time. To Officer Derek Thompson, you picked the wrong person to racially profile. You assumed I was a criminal because I'm young and black. You were wrong, and now you're going to learn that actions have consequences. Your illegal stop is going to cost you your career, your department millions of dollars, and become a national example of why racial profiling must end. To every police department watching this, implement reforms now. Collect data. Track stops by race. Use accountability software. Train officers on bias. Create oversight systems, because if you don't, and one of your officers does to someone else what Officer Thompson did to me, you're going to face the same lawsuit. And I'm personally funding legal defense for victims of racial profiling who want to sue. To every person who's ever been stopped, questioned, or brutalized for the crime of existing while black, I see you. I believe you. I'm fighting for you. This lawsuit isn't just about me. It's about all of us. And we're going to win. He steps back. I'll take a few questions. The press explodes with raised hands and shouted questions. Jessica points to a reporter from the Washington Post. Mr. Johnson, some people are saying you're using this incident for publicity. How do you respond? Marcus doesn't hesitate. I made $50 million last year. I don't need publicity. I need justice. And if telling my story creates publicity that leads to police reform, good. Publicity is how we create pressure for change. Another reporter. Do you think Officer Thompson is racist? I don't know what's in his heart. I know his actions were racist. He saw my race and made assumptions. That's racial profiling regardless of his personal beliefs. And that's what needs to change. Not just individual attitudes, but systemic behaviors. A Fox News reporter. Isn't it possible the officer just made a mistake? Do you think this lawsuit is excessive? Marcus looks at her directly. 37 stops. That's not one officer making one mistake. That's a pattern. That's systemic. And this lawsuit isn't excessive. It's necessary, because nothing changes without consequences. Officer Thompson needs to lose his job. The department needs to pay damages. That's how you create incentive for reform. Another reporter. What do you say to people who claim you were driving an attention-getting car and should have expected scrutiny? I say that's victim blaming. I purchased a car legally with money I earned. Driving an expensive car isn't a crime. And the fact that people think a black person driving a Ferrari deserves to be stopped shows exactly why we need to have this conversation. The problem isn't my car. The problem is the assumption that I couldn't possibly own it legitimately. A CNN reporter. You mentioned 37 stops. Can you tell us about the first time? Marcus nods. I was 14 years old, walking home from the library with a backpack full of programming books. 2 officers stopped me, searched me, asked where I stole the books. Didn't believe I had a library card. Made me wait on the sidewalk for 40 minutes while they verified my story. I was a child, reading books, and I was treated like a criminal. That was the day I learned that following the rules doesn't protect you when you're black. His voice is steady, but the emotion is clear. Every young black person has a story like that. The first time you realize your skin color makes you suspicious. The first time police see you as a threat instead of a child. That's the reality we live with. And that's what has to change. An NPR reporter. What specific reforms are you demanding? Marcus pulls out a document. I've prepared a detailed list. mandatory body cameras that can't be turned off, automatic recording of all traffic stops, data collection on stops broken down by race, monthly reporting of stop statistics, racial bias training for all officers, community oversight boards with real authority, consequences for officers who generate excessive complaints, implementation of accountability software that identifies profiling patterns, independent investigation of use of force incidents, and financial penalties for departments that fail to implement these reforms. These aren't radical ideas. These are basic accountability measures that should already exist. My company built software that does most of this automatically. The technology exists. The research shows it works. The only barrier is political will. A local reporter. Have you heard from Officer Thompson or the police department? No, and I don't expect to. They're probably being advised by attorneys to avoid contact. That's fine. We'll communicate through the legal system. Jessica steps forward. We'll take 2 more questions. A Bloomberg reporter. You said you're donating your settlement to police reform. Can you elaborate? Yes. When we win this lawsuit, and we will win, I'm creating the Justice and Accountability Foundation. Every dollar from the settlement will fund police reform initiatives across the country. We'll provide free accountability software to departments that can't afford it. We'll fund legal defense for victims of racial profiling who want to sue. We'll support community oversight organizations. We'll train advocates. We'll lobby for legislation. This settlement becomes seed money for a national movement. Final question from a Washington Post reporter. What do you want people watching this to take away from your story? Marcus thinks for a moment. I want people to understand that systemic racism isn't just about individual prejudice. It's about systems and structures that produce racist outcomes regardless of individual intent. Officer Thompson might not consider himself racist, but his actions were racist. The department's lack of oversight enabled racist policing. The system protects officers who profile people. That's systemic racism. And I want people to know that change is possible. We have the tools, we have the technology, we have the research. We know what works. The only missing ingredient is political will, and lawsuits like mine create that will. Make it expensive to maintain racist systems. Make it cheaper to reform than to defend the status quo. He looks directly at the cameras. If you're a person of color who's been profiled by police, document everything. Know your rights. Record interactions when possible. Report misconduct, and contact organizations that can help you fight back. You don't have to accept being treated like a criminal for existing. If you're a police officer who genuinely wants to serve your community, support reform. Push for accountability in your department. Call out racism when you see it. Be the change the system needs. And if you're a person watching this who's never experienced racial profiling, believe us when we tell you it's real. Listen to our stories. Support reforms. Use your privilege to advocate for change. Because this isn't just a black problem. It's an American problem, and we all have to be part of the solution. Marcus steps back. Thank you. That's all for now. The press conference ends, but the questions continue being shouted. Marcus and Jessica walk back to her office while her team handles the media follow-up. That was perfect, Jessica says. You controlled the narrative, made it about systemic issues, not just one incident. Positioned yourself as an advocate, not just a victim. This is going to resonate. Good, because this is bigger than my lawsuit. This is about changing the conversation around policing. His phone has been buzzing constantly. He checks it in Jessica's office. Thousands of messages. Social media mentions in the millions. News outlets requesting interviews. Organizations wanting him to speak. Celebrities offering support, but also death threats. Racist messages, accusations of race baiting, threats to his business, his family, his life. The predictable backlash from people who hate seeing a successful black man demand accountability. Jessica sees his face. The threats. Yeah, nothing I didn't expect, but still unsettling. We're hiring security for you, immediately. This level of attention attracts dangerous people. I'm not taking chances. Marcus nods. Success comes with a target on your back, especially when you're challenging power structures. Over the next week, the story dominates news cycles. Video of Marcus's stop has been viewed over 100 million times. Justice for Marcus trends globally. Think pieces appear in every major publication. Congress members call for hearings. The DOJ announces they're monitoring the case. And Officer Derek Thompson's life implodes. He's placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The police union tries to defend him, but the video evidence is too clear. Internal Affairs finds multiple violations of policy and procedure. Other complaints against Thompson surface. Patterns of disproportionately stopping black drivers, using excessive force, making racially charged comments. The investigation reveals what Marcus's software would have flagged months ago. Thompson has a history of racial profiling, has stopped black drivers at 3 times the rate of white drivers despite working in an area that's 65% white, has generated complaints at twice the rate of other officers, has been involved in 4 excessive force incidents in 3 years. He should have been flagged for intervention long ago, but the department had no data collection system, no oversight, no accountability. 2 weeks after the stop, Derek Thompson is fired, terminated for violation of department policy, violation of constitutional rights, and conduct unbecoming an officer. His police certification is revoked. He'll never work in law enforcement again. The police union fights the termination, claims it's too harsh, that Thompson made an honest mistake, that firing him will hurt morale and make officers afraid to do their jobs. But the city's lawyers disagree. The video evidence is devastating. The lawsuit threat is real. Keeping Thompson employed is a liability the city can't afford. The termination stands. 3 weeks after the stop, Marcus's lawsuit is officially filed. Jessica and her team present it at a press conference. We're suing Officer Derek Thompson individually for false imprisonment, excessive force, and violation of constitutional rights under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. We're suing the Suburban Police Department for maintaining policies and practices that enable racial profiling. We're seeking $15 million in compensatory and punitive damages. And we're demanding court-ordered reforms, including mandatory body cameras, data collection, racial bias training, and implementation of accountability software. The lawsuit is 47 pages. It details not just Marcus's stop, but the pattern of racial profiling in the department, documents other complaints, presents statistical evidence of disparate treatment, shows the department's failure to implement basic accountability measures. It's not just a lawsuit. It's an indictment of an entire policing system. The department's response is predictable. Deny everything, claim Thompson acted appropriately, argue that Marcus's lawsuit is frivolous and motivated by greed, try to settle quietly for much less money and no reforms. But Marcus won't settle quietly, won't accept money without change, won't let this become just another payout that changes nothing. We're going to trial, he tells Jessica. I want this public. I want every detail exposed. I want the department's failures documented in court records. Even if they offer the full $15 million, I won't settle unless they agree to every reform on our list. Jessica grins. Most clients want to settle fast and get paid. You're going to cost them so much more by forcing a trial. I love it. 6 months later, the trial begins. Marcus sits in federal court watching jury selection. His legal team has prepared meticulously. They have the video evidence, the expert witnesses, the statistical analysis, the documented pattern of racial profiling, everything needed to win. The defense strategy is predictable. Paint Marcus as a wealthy activist using this stop to push his political agenda. Claim Thompson acted reasonably based on his training. Argue that stopping an expensive car wasn't racial profiling, but sound police work. But they have one problem: the video. You can't argue that Thompson acted reasonably when video shows him pulling a gun on an innocent man. Can't claim it wasn't racial profiling when Thompson has no articulable suspicion beyond expensive car, black driver. Can't defend the excessive force when Marcus is clearly complying throughout. The trial lasts 3 weeks. Jessica and her team methodically present the case. Expert testimony on racial profiling. Statistics showing Thompson's disparate treatment of black drivers, constitutional law experts explaining the Fourth Amendment violations, use of force experts demonstrating the excessive nature of Thompson's actions, Video analysis showing frame by frame how Thompson escalated unnecessarily, and Marcus's testimony. He takes the stand on day 12, speaks calmly and clearly about his experience. The 37 stops, the pattern of harassment, the assumption of criminality, the fear of being killed for reaching for his registration. I followed every command, Marcus says on the stand. Hands visible, moving slowly, complying, and I was still forced to the ground at gunpoint, still handcuffed, still brutalized, because in Officer Thompson's mind, a young black man in a Ferrari could only be a criminal. Under cross-examination, the defense tries to break him, suggests he was driving recklessly to attract attention, implies he somehow provoked the stop, argues he's exaggerating for financial gain. Marcus doesn't break, answers every question calmly with facts. I wasn't speeding. The video shows that. I wasn't committing any traffic violations. The video shows that. I complied with every command. The video shows that. The only thing that made me suspicious was my skin color. And the video shows that too. The defense has no response. Because Marcus is right. The video shows everything. They try to present Thompson as a good officer who made one mistake. Bring character witnesses, show his commendations. But on cross-examination, Jessica destroys that narrative. Officer Thompson, how many times have you stopped black drivers in the past 3 years? I don't keep track by race. Your department provided the data. You stopped black drivers 247 times in 3 years. How many white drivers? I don't remember exactly. 83. You stopped black drivers 3 times as often despite working in an area that's 65% white. Does that sound like unbiased policing to you? Thompson has no good answer. Jessica continues. Of those 247 stops of black drivers, how many resulted in arrests? I don't have those numbers. 11. 4%. Of 247 stops, only 11 arrests, which means 236 of your stops of black drivers resulted in no charges. No violations found, no arrests made, just harassment, just profiling, just wasting people's time because you assumed they were criminals based on skin color. The jury watches Thompson squirm. They're seeing the pattern, seeing the evidence of systematic racial profiling. Officer Thompson, when you saw Mr. Johnson's Ferrari, what was your first thought? That the car might be stolen. Based on what? Based on the value of the vehicle. So expensive cars are suspicious? No, but then what made this specific car suspicious? What was different about this Ferrari compared to the other Ferraris you've seen in that neighborhood? Thompson is silent, because the answer is obvious, and he can't say it. The driver was black, wasn't he? That's what made this car suspicious. Not the car itself, the driver's race. I didn't profile him. You pulled your weapon immediately, before even approaching the vehicle, before running the plates, before determining any actual threat. You drew your weapon because you saw a young black man in an expensive car and assumed criminality. That's racial profiling, Officer Thompson, and this jury sees it clearly. The defense tries to recover, brings in police training experts who claim Thompson followed protocol. That officer's safety requires caution with expensive vehicles that might be stolen, but Jessica's experts demolish that argument, show that Thompson's actions violated his own department's use of force policies, that drawing a weapon requires articulable threat, not assumption, that forcing a compliant person to the ground is excessive force. By week 3, the trial's outcome is clear. The evidence is overwhelming. The defense has no credible rebuttal. The jury sees exactly what happened. Racial profiling, constitutional violations, excessive force, all caught on video. Jury deliberation takes 4 hours. They return with a verdict. Liability found on all counts against Officer Thompson and the department. Damages awarded, $12 million compensatory, $8 million punitive. Total, $20 million, more than Marcus even asked for. The jury wanted to send a message. The courtroom erupts. Jessica and her team hug Marcus. The defense lawyers look devastated. Derek Thompson sits at the defense table with his head in his hands, watching his life savings disappear in a judgment he'll never be able to pay. The judge issues additional orders. The police department must implement all reforms on Marcus's list, must collect data on all stops, must use accountability software, must report statistics quarterly, must submit to federal monitoring for 5 years. Failure to comply results in additional fines and potential contempt charges. It's a complete victory, not just money. Systemic reform enforced by court order. Outside the courthouse, Marcus stands with Jessica addressing the media. Today's verdict sends a clear message. Racial profiling has consequences. Departments that enable it will pay. Officers who practice it will lose their careers. And victims who experience it can win justice. He looks at the cameras. But this isn't about my victory. It's about the change this verdict will create. $20 million will fund police reform initiatives nationwide. Court-ordered monitoring will force this department to change its practices. And the precedent we set today will help other victims of racial profiling win their cases. Officer Thompson's illegal stop cost him his career and his department $20 million. Let that be a lesson to every police officer who considers pulling over someone based on their race. It's not worth it. The video cameras are everywhere. The lawsuits are coming, and the victims have resources to fight back. To everyone watching, document your interactions with police, know your rights, report misconduct, and fight for justice. Because as today's verdict shows, accountability is possible. Change is possible. We just have to demand it. 1 year after the illegal stop, Marcus stands in the suburban police department's headquarters, invited this time, watching them implement the accountability software his company built. The $20 million settlement has been paid. Derek Thompson declared bankruptcy. The judgment follows him forever. The department is under federal monitoring. New policies are in place. Body cameras mandatory. Data being collected. Monthly reports published. And Marcus's software is now analyzing every stop in real time, flagging potential profiling, identifying officers who need intervention. The new police chief, the old one was forced out, addresses the department with Marcus beside him. This software will make us better. Will help us identify problems before they become lawsuits. Will protect good officers and flag bad ones. This is the future of accountable policing. Marcus speaks to the assembled officers. I know some of you resent me, resent this software, think I'm making your jobs harder. But I'm not your enemy. Bad officers are your enemy. They give you all a bad reputation. They create liability. They make communities distrust police. This software protects you by identifying the officers who are creating problems. He looks at the officers. I was stopped 37 times. Most of those stops were probably well-intentioned officers who made assumptions based on stereotypes. But good intentions don't matter when actions violate rights. This software will help you recognize your own biases. Will flag when your stops show patterns. Will give you a chance to correct behavior before it becomes a lawsuit. Use it. Learn from it. Become better officers. Because the alternative is more lawsuits, more lost careers, more departments paying millions in settlements. This is the cheaper option, the smarter option, the right option. After the presentation, a young black officer approaches Marcus privately. Mr. Johnson, I wanted to thank you. I've been stopped by other departments 17 times off duty. My own colleagues assume I'm a criminal when I'm not in uniform. This software might finally make people realize it's not just civilians who experience racial profiling, it's black officers too. Marcus nods. That's why this work matters. Because even people in the system experience it. Even people with badges. 2 years after the illegal stop, Marcus sits in congressional testimony, providing expert witness testimony on a bill to mandate police accountability measures nationwide. Members of Congress, my experience with racial profiling isn't unique. It's the reality for millions of black Americans. But my ability to fight back, to hire expensive attorneys, to survive the legal battle, to win a $20 million judgment, that's unique. Most victims of racial profiling can't afford that fight. They have to accept the humiliation and move on. That's why federal legislation is necessary. We can't rely on individual lawsuits to create change. We need national standards, mandatory body cameras, required data collection, accountability software, consequences for departments that fail to implement reforms. The technology exists. The research proves it works. We know how to reduce racial profiling. The question is whether we have the political will to mandate it. He presents his data, shows how departments using his software have reduced racial profiling complaints by 64%, shows how accountability measures improve police-community relations, shows the cost savings from avoiding lawsuits. The bill passes. Federal funding now requires police departments to implement basic accountability measures. Marcus's software becomes the industry standard. Racial profiling begins to decline measurably. It's not perfect, not complete, but it's progress. 5 years after the illegal stop, Marcus stands at a police reform conference addressing 2,000 law enforcement professionals and community advocates. 5 years ago, I was pulled from my Ferrari at gunpoint because an officer assumed I was a criminal. That illegal stop changed my life. Not because it was unique, I'd been illegally stopped 36 times before, but because I finally had the resources to fight back, to turn my victimization into advocacy, to use my lawsuit as leverage for systemic change. He clicks to a slide showing statistics. In 5 years, we've made real progress. Racial profiling complaints are down 47% in departments using accountability software. Use of force incidents are down 38%. Community trust in police is up 23%. Federal legislation has mandated reforms nationwide. The system is changing, but we're not done. Racial profiling still happens. Innocent people are still stopped based on skin color. Officers still make assumptions based on stereotypes. We've made progress, but we haven't achieved justice. He looks at the audience of police chiefs and community leaders. The work continues. Every day, in every department, in every community, we keep pushing for accountability, keep demanding reforms, keep exposing problems, keep fighting for change. Because 5 years ago, a police officer saw a young black man in a Ferrari and assumed criminality. And that assumption triggered a chain of events that changed policing nationwide. One illegal stop, $20 million in damages, federal legislation, thousands of departments implementing reforms, millions of people benefiting from increased accountability. That's the power of consequences. That's why lawsuits matter. That's why we can't accept the status quo, because every illegal stop is an opportunity to demand change. Every violation is leverage for reform. Every victim who fights back creates progress for everyone else. Marcus shows his final slide. Photo of him in his Ferrari on the day of the stop, handcuffed face down on pavement. Next to it, photo of him at the congressional hearing 5 years later, testifying about reforms. This is what transformation looks like, from victim to advocate, from humiliation to power, from one illegal stop to national reform. That's the journey, and it's not over. To every person watching who's experienced racial profiling, your story matters. Your experience is valid, and you have power, more power than you realize. Document everything. Know your rights, fight back when you can, and know that every lawsuit, every complaint, every demand for accountability moves us closer to justice. To every police officer watching, be part of the solution. Support reforms in your department. Call out racism when you see it. Treat every person with dignity regardless of their race. Be the kind of officer who makes accountability measures unnecessary because you're already doing it right. And to everyone else, believe victims when they tell you about racial profiling. Support reforms when they're proposed. Vote for accountability. Use your voice and your privilege to demand change, because this isn't just a black problem or a police problem. It's an American problem, and we all have responsibility to fix it. The standing ovation lasts 8 minutes. After the conference, Marcus drives back to his office, in the same Ferrari, now with custom plates. Justice won. A reminder of where he's been and what he's accomplished. 5 years ago, he was handcuffed on pavement. Today, he's transformed policing nationwide. Not because of his wealth, though that helped, but because he had expertise, determination, and the courage to turn his trauma into change. Officer Derek Thompson's career ended that day at Maple and Jefferson. Marcus's life work began. And every day, police departments across America implement reforms because one officer made one racist assumption and pulled over the wrong person. Have you ever been racially profiled? Have you ever been stopped by police without justification? Have you ever been judged by your appearance instead of your actions? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of racial profiling, systemic injustice, and the moments when victims fought back and won. Because somewhere right now, a black person is being stopped for driving while black. A person of color is being questioned for looking suspicious. An innocent person is being assumed to be a criminal based on nothing but race. And maybe, just maybe, that person has the resources, the knowledge, and the determination to fight back, to document the violation, to hire attorneys, to sue for millions, to force accountability. Derek Thompson thought he was stopping a car thief. He was actually pulling over a millionaire with a PhD-level understanding of constitutional law, connections to the best civil rights attorneys in the country, and the determination to turn one illegal stop into national reform. That mistake cost him everything and changed policing for millions of people.